Right, we've done all the housekeeping. We're going to jump straight in, and we're going to start off. We've got a little film to introduce everything, and then I'll ask a couple of questions. So I think you're all right, don't worry. Be fine. Okay, gents.
Marathon runner the world has ever seen. Kipchoge storms into the history books.
And it's the World Championship for Mercedes.
Well, it's certainly moved us up here because we're right by these very loud speakers. Let me kick off. Jim, can I start with a quick question to you? Why Formula One and why Mercedes?
Right, well, that's sort of straight to it, really. We have, we being myself, Andy and John in the front here, which is sort of INEOS Capital, really, we do have a genuine passion for sport. As you sort of evidenced by, some of these other sports we're involved in. And Formula One is one of the world's most exciting sports, as evidenced, I suppose, by the fact that more people watch Formula One than pretty much anything else. So it's this intriguing marriage of sport and technology. We're always debating, aren't we, what would Lewis do if he was in a different car, or, so it's this intriguing marriage, which is very similar to our America's Cup challenge, which we are discovering is exactly the same, because it's quite a technical challenge to build one of these boats that you've just seen that really shouldn't sail. It's a 10-story building on a coffee table, really, or sailing on a coffee table. So very exciting, lots of adrenaline, and a fantastic sport. And secondly, in terms of Mercedes, I think we just have a great admiration for a fantastic engineering company that's been, that's very much at the top of its game and been very successful in the sport.
Thanks, Jim. And how about Toto, your side? What does it mean having INEOS coming in as a principal partner?
Yeah, it's obviously a superb new chapter for us to attract INEOS, and I think what kind of unites us is the ambition and the competitiveness. When you look at we got to know each other after Barcelona testing last year, and I know Dave for a while already, who shares that competitiveness. And when I started to look a little bit into INEOS and Andy, you can see what mankind is able to create with passion, understanding, and the drive to succeed over 20 years from a startup to one of the most successful companies in the world. And I think these values unite us in a way. And we got on immediately. We share the passion for competitive sports, be it sailing, be it cycling. We loved the 159 attempt. And it was just a matter of time that we would find that common denominator in Formula One, the fastest lab in the world, through engineering. And here we sit and we start this new great chapter for these two companies.
Great, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. If you could, when you ask a question, just wait for the microphone, and if you could state your name and your affiliation, that would be very helpful. Who'd like to go first? Gentleman here on the front row, we've got a microphone. Thank you.
Alan Baldwin, Reuters. It's a 5-year partnership, and the obvious question, I suppose, is that Mercedes have yet to sign up beyond this year for the championship. What conclusions can we draw from that?
Well, like I've always said, Alan, is we are in this for the long term. Mercedes provides a great marketing platform for our brand. This is what we do. We build race cars and we build road cars. Formula One is the halo platform for hybrid engineering, something that is not communicated enough because it was talked down at the beginning of the V6 hybrid era, and is something we should really put more emphasis on. And in that respect, with all the things that are out in the media, we like the platform, but on the same time we're in the negotiation with the rights holders, and things need to be sorted out. But the partnership is clearly something that indicates our wish to continue our successful journey in Formula One.
And for me, it's only day one for us, obviously, so we don't really know a great deal. But I mean, it's obviously at the cutting edge of technology, and there's clearly going to be a lot of technology transfer from an outfit where Toto's got 1,000 of the world's best engineers working on, new ways and better ways of doing things, reducing waste and all that sort of thing. So some of that has to transfer into an automotive company. So there's value there, which is quite difficult to measure. But also, certainly, just as a sort of, the average punter, if I look at the Mercedes image 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it was a taxi or a sort of an elderly gentleman's car, wasn't it, really, if you think about it? That's where I would never have bought a Mercedes 20 years ago. But today it's a very different image for Mercedes, and I think a lot of that is associated with its success in, and it's not just its participation in Formula One, but its success. If they'd backed a team that had been moderately successful, it would have been quite different. But the fact that they have been, arguably the best sports team and most successful sports team in the world to have won the Formula One Championship 6 years on the trot. I don't think anybody else has ever done that. That's enhanced the Mercedes image enormously, I think. It's changed the Mercedes image into, I do buy them today, even though I'm older. I am one of those elderly gentlemen now I think about it, but I'll shut up.
Okay.
I don't think of myself that way.
Next question. Yeah, gentleman here.
John Noble from motorsports.com. Toto, you talked about the negotiations are ongoing. Obviously, it's true for all the teams. But what time frame do you expect all this kind of uncertainty and speculation to end? When can we get a definitive decision on what's happening?
As you say, it's an ongoing process, and it's a complicated set of contracts, trilateral contract between the FIA, the commercial rights holder, and all the teams, and that needs times. And the devil lies in the detail. So I wouldn't want to commit here to give you a specific date, because there are quite some topics that remain to be agreed on. And it's work in process. Clearly there is the will and the wish for all of the stakeholders to come to a close before we embark on the 2021 season, because that would be an uncomfortable situation.
Okay, next question. Yep, gentleman there.
Hi, Rob Harris from Associated Press. Jim, how important is Lewis Hamilton staying with the team for this partnership, and how crucial is he? And is there any update, Toto, on his ongoing future in terms of signing a new contract? And just more broadly, obviously, we enter the season with uncertainty about Shanghai and the virus. Is there a wider concern for the championship, given so many people moving around, particularly Asia, in those opening weeks and months of the season?
I mean, briefly on Lewis, I've only ever met Lewis for 5 minutes. Lewis and his dog, actually, for 5 minutes. So I don't know Lewis. I'm a great admirer. I think he's one of the finest drivers that's ever, strode the earth. Extremely talented man. But in terms of the future, that would be Toto, not me.
I think it is the obvious pairing going forward. We would like to have the fastest man in the car, and I guess that Lewis, or I know that Lewis wants to be in the fastest car. So there's a obvious mutual outcome. But you know, we travel around the world almost 10 months every year. We go on our nerves every second weekend. And what we do over winter is that we leave each other in peace. And the last conversation I had with him was in the evening before the Christmas party, where we had a nice chat that we would continue our discussion or start our discussion once he comes back from America, and we have properly kicked off the season. And I have great belief in the abilities of the team to attract the best drivers. And at the moment, Lewis has proven that he is the best current driver with his 6 titles. And on the mid and long term, I would hope that we are able to continue to provide technology to the best driver and attract them. And in terms of China, Formula E was cancelled. They are about 3 weeks, I believe, before us, and they cancelled last week. So I would very much hope that we go to China. I'm actually, after this, I'm going to the China embassy for my biometric scan. That is also news. So at the moment, everything looks like we are going to China. But not going would be a shame. We had full grandstands last year. It was sold out. China starts to become a really important market in terms of the fan followership, where we have great activities in Shanghai around the race, and not going there would obviously not be great for the fans and ourselves. But health comes first, and I hope that they get in control of that. That is the bigger opportunity, the bigger priority.
Yep. What question there? And then there's another one behind.
Hello, Fernando Garcia, SNTV. It's clear that Mercedes have been dominated in the sport in the last few years. I don't know if there is any concerns among all the manufacturers that the competition and the tournament is losing a little bit of attractiveness for the final consumers. I don't know if you have been in discussions with the other manufacturers to add something else to make the competition more attractive. Thank you.
So the data speak a different language. We were presented the 2019 data by Liberty last week, and you can see that our audiences have grown everywhere. You would imagine that linear TV is something that should be quietly shrinking, and it's not for Formula One. We're actually one of the few sports that is growing the audiences whilst we are moving certain countries behind the paywall. And the UK is a great example. Obviously, when we were with BBC or then Channel 4, the absolute audiences were much bigger than we have today. But Sky is doing a great deal, and they are providing lots of content, and this is growing. And we are looking back at a year 2019 with almost 2 billion viewers, 490 million unique viewers, almost 90 million views over a weekend, and an average of more than 20 million live viewers for the Grand Prix. So these are huge numbers compared to any other sport out there. That is really a standout. So in terms of global attraction for the sport, it's there. We are the fastest growing sport on social media, even compared to all the American leagues. And you can see that we're on a good track. Now, the reason behind it is I think that Liberty is doing a good job by opening up to social media, which wasn't the case before. And I think we had a great competition. Even Mercedes winning a 6th championship, you can say, does this make people turn off? But the point is, there was still variability and there was still unpredictability. You wouldn't know before the weekend if a Ferrari was on pole position or Red Bull was on pole position, whether Max Verstappen would win, the battle between the generation is something that is a great attraction. Vettel against Leclerc, Verstappen against Hamilton. This is something that attracts the audiences. And for me, the best news is that we are growing our audiences and fan base with the younger generations. And I think overall we're on a really good path.
I think there was another question just behind that. Yeah, gentleman with the beard.
Stephen Arity from Auto Express magazine. Question for Jim. You are obviously have your endeavour in the automotive industry with your new off-road project. Do you foresee any sort of crossover or involvement, or will these be two very separate endeavours?
I think inevitably there'll be some crossover because we'll sort of watch and learn a bit, really, and I suppose and we'll get to know Mercedes. And I think I don't know the automotive world obviously as well as I know my world of petrochemicals, but in the chemicals world, we compete with each other, but equally we all supply each other, and we all buy from each other, and we all know each other quite well. And I'm sure automotive is no different, really. So the Grenadier is not a vehicle which competes with anything really in the Mercedes range or the BMW range where the powertrain comes from. But so there's no reason there shouldn't be cooperation, and we're always sort of eager to learn and look at things that we might be able to acquire from them. Yeah.
Gentleman here on the front row.
Jonathan McAvoy, Daily Mail to Sir Jim. Will you now be at races more regularly as a result of this arrangement? At races, at Formula One races?
I will go to, well, it's the calendar. There's quite a lot in the calendar, of course, because there's one or two cycling races and things like that. So, but I mean, the answer is yes, definitely Monaco. I'm definitely going to the Monaco one, which is, the glamorous one, really. And I've had all that bad press about Monaco, so I don't care. I'm definitely going to Monaco. But I'll go to a few others. I might go to Monza and maybe the Belgian one and what have you. Yeah.
Maybe a story that is interesting because you're making fun of the Monaco thing and going to the glamorous Grand Prix. How we met Jim is not at all glamorous and in a way trying to be important. Jim attended the Barcelona testing last year, and we didn't know that he was there. He was invited by one of our partners, UBS, as a guest of UBS, and did the whole tour as a guest of UBS. Was introduced to Esteban Gutierrez and Valtteri.
Yes.
And you said to me they were friendly.
Yeah, very, very lovely. Yeah.
Which was really nice to hear.
Yeah.
And eventually, a few weeks later, I went through I got the information who was there from UBS, and I saw Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I wasn't sure it was really you, or because. So at the end, we started emailing, and eventually it was Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And he didn't at all expect any special treatment or any, we would have rolled out the red carpet. That wasn't necessary. No. And so, again, from the values that we share is, whilst trying to be successful and competitive with great ambition, still keeping the feet on the ground. And I think that is a very important personality trait, why we've all felt that in the group as a collective we can do some good stuff.
I think if I just add to that, really, because it's, when I think Tom asked the question at the beginning, why Formula One and why the Mercedes Formula One time, what have you. I mean, there are a number of sort of more clinical reasons, but at the end of the day, the relationship has to work, and if Toto and I and the people that work for Toto and the people that work for me don't get on with each other, then these sorts of partnerships and they're not going to be either probably that successful or that enjoyable. But one of the ways in which we've got to know Toto's guys and his ethos and his values in the organisation that he runs is through the America's Cup collaboration, where we have a technical collaboration, and a bunch of Toto's guys now work on the technical challenges in building this boat, which is very difficult. And it's been a super relationship, because if you look at the guys running, the guy the chief executive of our team, Grant Simmer, has been involved in the last 11 America's Cup. And on one of those, one of the other Formula One teams added some engineers to their resource, and it didn't work because they were a bit arrogant and inflated and what have you. But in the case of the Mercedes Formula One team, they have a very similar attitude and spirit to the INEOS people. We don't like arrogance, we don't like bullies, we don't like the I word, we always use the we word, that sort of thing, you know. And it just worked seamlessly between the guys that we had down in Portsmouth and about 30 of Toto's guys who fitted in really well and really engaged on the project. So that was one of the ways in which, you know, we got to understand how your team operates. And I mean, the other comment I would make is the fact that Toto and his team have won 6 championships on the trot is not an accident. And it's similar, that Dave Brailsford's here today as a supporter of this announcement. But Dave Brailsford's won the Tour de France for the last 7 years with his team. And again, you know, the observation I make, because I'm new to all these things, is, again, it's not an accident. It's the fact that people, you know, Toto and Dave and their teams are doing things really well, really meticulously, really detailed, really good team ethos. I mean, look at Klopp at Liverpool. He gets his team to work together. You know, if you get teams to work together, they're worth double if they don't work together, sort of thing. So, not an accident.
Maybe just want to add to this, because obviously we try to develop the overall strategies of where they should go, but on all operational level, we share those values. And between Dave and myself and Ben, we have the same kind of attitude towards competition, taking our competitors seriously, and not taking anything for granted. No sense of entitlement. But then obviously, within the layers of the organization, you can see that it's impersonified. And for us, it came at the right time. Next year, Formula One faces restructuring. Cost cap comes in, which I believe is a good thing, because it obliges us to operate with greater scrutiny, and will turn our entities into profitable entities. And a guy I would like to mention is Graham Miller, who sits there calmly in the back, who runs our Mercedes-Benz Appliance Science group. He took the project on with Ben Ainsley and his team to help on the America's Cup Challenge, and within 24 hours he deployed himself to Portsmouth without even thinking twice. I haven't seen Graham since. I get the reports once a week. He settled in well in Portsmouth. I think Portsmouth must be better than Brackley. And we have these kind of personalities within the organizations. Sometimes heroes that are not in the first row, they don't get the kind of media attention, but this is why this relationship will function.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Benson, BBC Sport. Toto, on that subject, what's the new target you've set your team for this year to keep them motivated rather than just another World Championship? You've talked in the past about needing a new target every year. What is it this time?
Every year we try to set the right objectives, and objectives that are being understood throughout the organization. I think it's so important to wake up with purpose. And I don't see a lack of motivation and purpose within the organization. The pain of losing is so much more intense and lasts so much longer than the joy of winning. And this is in a way what drives us strongly. And the sheer thought about losing makes you forget about all your previous achievements. Last year's record doesn't buy us any credit for the 2020 championship. So all lap times, all points go to zero, and we are yet again in front of another challenge. And in a way, there is a reason why 6 was a world record, because it's bloody difficult, and we want to push that needle further. I think we are a great group of people that has just found partners that share the same values, and will be pushing us also to be successful.
The thing I was most surprised, when I had my trip around Brackley and I saw all the facilities and the wind tunnel, all that sort of stuff, the thing that I was most surprised by was the fact that the car changes every single race, and there's microscopic improvements every race, but if the car didn't improve every race, there's no chance of winning a championship. So I can't remember what the gain was over the course of a season, but it was quite...
2 seconds.
2 seconds, was it? Yeah. So it's not... You don't build a car and then race it for a season. It's just a continuous... Well, in other words, it's not easy. I mean, it is a continuous, very continuous and intense challenge.
And this year's championship is a 2-year championship. It is not only about the 2020 under the current regulations, but there's such a massive regulatory change for 2021 that balancing your allocation of resource will be crucial. And how much of your resource you're switching into the 2021 car, because obviously the learning and development slope is much steeper at the beginning. So if you get it wrong and you're months behind, you might be half a second behind. And this is a challenge which we have embraced in the past through 2 regulatory changes, and we love that one.
And you've got to help build this boat, Toto.
And we have to build the boat, help to build the boat. And we have some ideas about cycling too. He's pointing with the finger at me.
One here and then another one behind.
Lewis Larkham, Crash.net. Toto, is there any update on your future? And if you haven't already, when do you plan on making a decision on what you're going to do next?
Tell me Mercedes are leaving and Toto.
My role is different to all the other team principals. I'm a partner in the team, and I'm the managing partner of the team. We have a joint venture with Daimler, and honestly, I have to pinch myself every day to have the opportunity to be in that situation. So it's very different. But we're planning our long-term strategy together with Daimler, and Jim and his partners coming in is yet another building block, and so all sails are set for a successful future. But we are like with Lewis, we're in the middle of discussions and tweaking here and there, and I wouldn't really want to live comment when things are going to be signed, because if I give a date, then you're going to ask me all the time.
To both of you, Toto, you mentioned earlier on about the value of the hybrid and the message that comes out of it, but the British government announced last week they're banning the sale of hybrids from 2035. What do you think this means for Formula One? Where should F1 now go in the future, especially because F1 itself sees a good potential in biofuels and pushing on with that technology?
The Formula One hybrid power units are the most efficient power units in the world. We have more than 50% thermal efficiency, and there is no other engine like this. And our road car division is learning from that. So now by adding the bio-components to the fuels, and gradually we will be stepping that up, and it's a joint exercise between the FIA, between the various fuel and oil suppliers, and all of us teams. I think we are pushing ourselves hard, like we need to. I think Jean Todt is at the forefront of lowering our CO2 footprint, about lowering emissions, and we are on board to take the challenge to make these power units even more efficient. Now everybody is running into after 100% electric vehicles, but when you look at the forecast that Daimler is giving for 2030, there will be quite a lot of hybrid vehicles in the mix. And if you ask me from my personal standpoint, I've driven all these vehicles, and for me, hybrid is a good solution. It allows you to go electric in urban areas, which is obvious from your home to your office, and you plug it in, or you have some inductive charging on the road. And if you go to the airport, you avoid running out of electricity because you have a small hybrid naturally aspirated or normal engine. And I think this is the future.
Just as about 15 minutes, we'll head downstairs. So if anybody from the camera side wants to make a move and get set up downstairs, now is a good time to do that. We've got about another 15 minutes in here. Yeah, another question here.
Lawrence Edmondson, ESPN. Toto, you mentioned earlier the younger generation of drivers, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Both have been signed to quite long-term contracts going forward. Were you surprised by that, and is it at all disappointing?
Is that what we're here for? All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I want to see this blue.
Yeah, they're all coming back up.
We've come to the moment everyone's been waiting for, where we reveal the livery of the new car for 2020. Okay, guys, it's all yours.
All right.
Okay. Always giving the okay.
Tom, you're going to do
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Okay,
go?
1, 2, 3, away you go.
Look at the cameras, Is that your best time?
Keep going, Jim. More. each for literally a minute each. Just one quick question for the live stream.
All right.
I don't know which bit. So Jim, magnificent new livery. Got INEOS on the car. What's first thoughts?
First time I've seen it. It's fantastic. Yeah, very exciting. Yeah. I like the red cap. I think you'll get noticed. Yeah. Mm.
Thank you very much. Toto, I got a quick question with you. So Toto, we've got a new colour on the car. What's the feeling back in Brackley with all the engineers and the designers?
Yeah, we love it, and it shows the strengths of the brand and the appeal of Formula One. Attracting INEOS and Jim and his partners into Formula One is, I think, a great moment for the team and a very good moment for Formula One overall.
Thank you very much.